Ever since the introduction of the modern MVP award in 1931, voters have placed a vote for 10 different players on each ballot. Since the voters can pick any player they want, there will typically be a large array of players to receive at least one vote. Most voters will vote for the same handful of players for high-ranking placements like 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, but players to receive a low-tier vote like 8th, 9th, or 10th will wildly vary. This is why, despite there being only 10 placements on the ballot, we usually see over 20 players receive a vote on a yearly basis. The 2023 American League MVP ballot saw 22 players receive a vote, while the National League one saw 23. In comparison, the very first ballot in 1931 saw 25 players on both ballots, so this has been consistent over the past century. Why does all this matter? It matters because since there's 24 or so players on the ballot every season, it means there are hundreds if not thousands of players throughout MLB history to receive at least one MVP vote. That raises an interesting question. Who holds the record for most career WAR to also not receive a single MVP vote? That player is Chet Lemon. Not only is Chet Lemon probably the greatest player ever to not receive a single vote for MVP, he's also one of the most underrated players of all time. Who is this player? Just how good was he, and why did he not receive a single MVP vote? Chet Lemon was a center fielder who played in Major League Baseball for 16 seasons from 1975 to 1990. He played for two teams during his time in the big leagues, the Chicago White Sox and Detroit Tigers. In his career, Lemon appeared in nearly 2,000 games and came to the plate nearly 7,900 times. He slashed .273 with a .355 on base and .442 slugging for 797 OPS and 121 adjusted OPS. He has nearly 1,900 hits, which includes over 650 extra base hits, nearly 900 RBIs and nearly 1,000 runs, over 3,000 total bases, and earned 55.6 WAR. He's a 3-time All-Star and a World Series winner, winning a title as a member of the 1984 Detroit Tigers. Many of his stats sound solid, but just how good was Chet Lemon compared to players during his era, as well as players all time? Among all position players from 1975 to 1990, Lemon ranks inside the top 20 in extra base hits, WAR, total bases, and times on base, inside the top 30 in runs and hits, and top 35 in RBIs. There were 30 players in this time frame with at least 7,500 plate appearances, and Lemon is 14th in OPS and adjusted OPS. That was in comparison to all players. What about looking solely at players at the same position? Among center fielders, Lemon ranks inside the top 5 in all of the previously mentioned statistics. Here is the full breakdown of those rankings, which include the highly impressive second ranking in WAR, only behind Hall of Famer Andre Dawson. There were 32 center fielders with at least 3,000 plate appearances during this stretch, and Lemon ranks 5th in OPS and 6th in adjusted OPS. Of course, that covers his entire duration in the big leagues. How good was he at his peak? In a 10-year stretch from 1977 to 1986, Lemon ranks inside the top 10 in WAR, top 30 in extra base hits, total bases, and times on base, top 35 in runs and hits, and top 50 in RBIs. Out of 52 players with at least 5,000 plate appearances during this decade-long period, Lemon ranks 13th in OPS and 15th in adjusted OPS. To look at just center fielders, he's again in the top 5 in all statistics, highlighted by ranking 2nd in WAR once again. Of the 24 center fielders with at least 5,000 plate appearances, Lemon ranks 3rd in both OPS and adjusted OPS. Based on all of that information, Chet Lemon was around the top 20 player during his time in the big leagues, while being, at worst, a top 5 center fielder. During his peak, Lemon was arguably a top 15 position player in the league, while being a top 3 center fielder. His counting stats may lack, but he makes up for it with his impressive WAR. Speaking of which, why is his WAR so high? That's due to Lemon's stellar defense. With a career D-WAR of 9.0, it's inside the top 50 among all players during his career, but ranks 3rd among center fielders. He was simultaneously one of the best hitting and fielding center fielders during his time in Major League Baseball. While that encompasses his career, how does he fare compared to all players throughout MLB history? Among all players throughout the history of Major League Baseball, Lemon ranks inside the top 155 in WAR, top 250 in extra base hits, top 325 in times on base and total bases, and top 425 in hits, runs, and RBIs. Looking at 363 players with at least 7,500 plate appearances, he's 194th in OPS and 161st in adjusted OPS. Not the greatest rankings out there, but what about looking at just center fielders again? Among all center fielders all time, Lemon ranks inside the top 20 in WAR, top 30 in extra base hits, top 45 in total bases, times on base, RBIs, and hits, and top 60 in runs. Out of 122 center fielders with at least 5,000 plate appearances, Lemon ranks 36 in both OPS and adjusted OPS. All time, he only ranks 310th in DWAR, but among center fielders, he's 24th. While the counting stats are lacking, Lemon is still arguably a top 200 player all time and top 40, if not better, center fielder ever to play in Major League Baseball. While Chet Lemon was an incredible player and one of the best center fielders to play in the big leagues, why did he not receive a single MVP vote? Certainly, it couldn't be because of a lack of a great season. In 1979, Lemon led the American League in doubles, was an All-Star, and batted .318 while posting an OPS of .887. That OPS was the 12th highest in the league, while his batting average was the 9th highest. In 1984, Lemon was once again an All-Star, while coincidentally having the 12th highest OPS in the American League. More notably, he was one of the best players on the Detroit Tigers that season, the team that won the World Series. Back then, playing on a winning team often swayed MVP voting. If you were a good player on a playoff team, chances were you'd at least get a handful of votes. On a Tigers team that blew off the competition all year, Lemon was arguably the second best hitter on the team, as he was second in both OPS and WAR, as well as having some of the top counting stats of any Tigers player that year. The major question is, why? Why didn't one of the premier players of his generation, who had multiple incredible seasons, who played on multiple playoff teams, not receive a single MVP vote? A part of it may be that he almost never led the league in a statistic, so he was never quote-unquote the best in any category. Lemon led the American League in doubles once and hit by pitches 4 times, and that's it. He also never hit 25 home runs in a season, only stole double-digit stolen bases once, and had just a single qualified season where he hit 300. To be clear, those parameters shouldn't be the reason why he doesn't deserve an MVP vote, but those were important indicators of success during his time. Also, to put it simply, Lemon played most of his career on a Tigers team with a ton of stars and more notable players, so perhaps he wasn't popular among the fans and media. Some of his teammates include Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker, Jack Morris, Willie Hernandez, Kirk Gibson, among several others. To further illustrate his unpopularity, in an interview from 1987, sports writer Tommy George stated, "You've been considered the type of player who stubs his toe and wants to sit out." To which Lemon responded, "I played hurt my whole career. I guess people think if you aren't bleeding and don't have stitches, you should play. I've grown to expect those kinds of things." For what it's worth, in 9 seasons as a Tiger, Lemon never played more than 146 games in a single season and never reached 600 plate appearances. In case anyone was wondering, I do not consider Lemon to be a Hall of Famer. Solid analytics, but the counting stats could be better. He did retire only at age 35 due to contracting a rare blood disorder, ending his career prematurely. If not for the early retirement, I don't think it would have been a stretch to say Lemon could have reached 60 WAR, 2,000 hits, 700 extra base hits, and 1,000 or so runs and RBIs. With those stats, it would definitely be a more interesting case. Chet Lemon was one of the best center fielders during his time in Major League Baseball and one of the finest players at that position throughout MLB history. He is, without a doubt, the greatest player to never receive an MVP vote.